Chapter 3, Part 4. Desire and Anger, the Inner Saboteurs Scenes. 331, 343. Scene. The armies of Kurukshetra still face each other, arrows ready, drums rolling. But Krishna now begins to shift the dialogue from the outer war to the inner one. Arjuna thinks his greatest enemies stand across the battlefield: Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Duryodhana. But Krishna opens another dimension. The real enemies are not only those in armor. They are within, desire and anger, the twin forces that hijack wisdom and cloud the heart. Then, in the Vedic tradition, the sages often warned that external battles are only reflections of internal struggles. Kings who conquered nations but failed to conquer their desires fell into ruin. Warriors who mastered weapons but not their tempers destroyed themselves. Kāma, or desire, and Krodha, or anger, are described as fires. They do not stay small. If fed, they grow, burning judgment, restraint, and clarity. They are the forces that cause even the wise to stumble. Krishna tells Arjuna that defeating outer enemies without taming these inner ones is meaningless. The Gita's battlefield is both literal and symbolic. Kurukshetra is also the field of the mind. Now, how sharp this feels today. We live in a culture that glorifies impulse. Advertisements stoke endless desire: more possessions, more status, more pleasure. Social media amplifies anger. Outrage spreads faster than calm. Careers are lost, families broken, societies fractured, not only because of external threats, but because people cannot govern themselves. A professional with great skill but uncontrolled desire collapses into scandal. A parent with good intentions but uncontrolled anger wounds children. A leader with vision but unrestrained impulse destroys trust. We often imagine enemies outside: competitors, critics, opponents. Krishna insists the most dangerous enemies are within: unchecked desire and anger. Focus. The heart of this section is simple yet demanding. Self-mastery is the foundation of victory. Without it, all outer success crumbles. With it, even small actions become luminous. Krishna is leading Arjuna, and us, from external duty to internal discipline. The question is not only, will you fight your enemies outside, but will you fight the subtler enemies within? 331. Following with faith. Scene. Krishna says, "Those who follow this teaching of mine with faith and without envy are freed from the bondage of actions." Then, Arjuna is reminded that this path is not reserved only for sages or kings. Anyone who listens to Krishna's wisdom with faith and who does not resist out of envy can attain freedom. Faith here is not blind belief, but openness, a willingness to trust wisdom and live it sincerely. Envy is the inner resistance that says, "Why should I follow? I know better." To live without envy is to be teachable, humble, and ready to practice. Krishna is making it clear: freedom from bondage is available to all who embrace the spirit of offering, regardless of their station in life. Now, this verse resonates deeply today. In our age, people often resist guidance. We live in a culture of "I know everything," where humility is rare. Yet wisdom requires openness. Think of the student who truly listens to a mentor, the athlete who trusts a coach, or the child who respects a parent's example. These are the ones who grow. Those who live in envy, constantly comparing and rejecting guidance, stagnate. Krishna's words call us to drop arrogance and embrace teachability. Ordinary duties, raising a family, working honestly, caring for others, become paths to liberation when practiced in faith and humility. Focus. Freedom is not found by escape, but by living wisdom with faith. Humility and openness transform everyday work into yoga. Live with trust, not envy, and bondage falls away. 332. Rejecting wisdom, the cost of arrogance. Scene. Krishna warns, "But those who, out of envy, disregard this teaching and do not follow it, know them to be deluded, devoid of all knowledge, and ruined." Then, Arjuna must see both paths. Just as faith frees, envy destroys. Those who mock wisdom, reject dharma, or cling to selfishness are not liberated, but bound. Their knowledge may be wide, but it is rootless. They may appear powerful, but inwardly they are hollow. To disregard Krishna's teaching is not only to deny divine instruction, but to sever oneself from the very wheel of harmony that sustains life. Such people are not neutral. They spread confusion by their example. They drag others down with them. Now, This warning feels painfully relevant. In our world, arrogance is often celebrated. People laugh at spirituality, dismiss humility as weakness, and resist any teaching that calls for discipline or sacrifice. Leaders mock truth, influencers glorify greed, societies reward envy. Yet the result is clear: fragmentation, restlessness, and ruin. Knowledge without humility becomes poison. Success without wisdom becomes collapse. Krishna's words are not threats, but realities. Those who scorn the path of offering create their own downfall. Focus. Rejecting wisdom is not freedom. It is bondage dressed as pride. Envy and arrogance blind the mind. Choose humility and faith, and life flourishes. Choose rejection, and confusion follows. Three's nature compels action. Scene. Krishna explains, even the wise act according to their own nature. All beings follow their nature. What will repression accomplish? Then, Arjuna is being told a sobering truth. Even sages are not beyond nature. Every being is shaped by the qualities of Prakriti, the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Even when wisdom shines, action flows through temperament and character. To try to repress one's nature with brute force leads to frustration. A fiery warrior cannot suddenly become a silent ascetic simply because he wishes it. Arjuna, born of the Kshatriya spirit, cannot run from battle without violating his deepest essence. Repression is not mastery. True mastery is alignment, allowing nature to act but guiding it with wisdom. Now, this truth resonates today. How often do people try to live lives that deny their nature? A creative person forced into mechanical work shrivels. An active person trying to imitate silence burns with restlessness. A nurturing person who ignores relationships feels hollow. We see this in careers, marriages, and choices where people repress their natural inclinations out of fear or imitation. The result is inner conflict. Krishna shows a higher way. Understand your nature, honor it, and refine it with wisdom. Self-mastery is not denial of nature, but its elevation. Focus. Do not waste life fighting your nature. Recognize it, align with it, and refine it with clarity. Suppression leads to misery. Transformation leads to freedom. 3. Attraction and aversion, the twin forces. Scene. Krishna warns, attachment and aversion dwell in the senses with respect to their objects. Do not come under their sway, for they are your foes. Then, here Arjuna is taught about the subtle enemies hidden in daily life. The senses are drawn to pleasure and recoil from pain. These two forces, attraction and aversion, pull the mind constantly. To indulge blindly is bondage. To recoil blindly is also bondage. The wise must see these impulses as passing waves, not ultimate truths. By warning Arjuna, Krishna is showing that real enemies are not just across the battlefield. They are these subtle pulls that control decision-making. Now, how alive this is in modern living. Marketing thrives on attraction. Endless products promise joy if you buy. Fear thrives on aversion. Endless warnings trap us in anxiety. Careers are ruined when people chase pleasure without thought or avoid difficulty that could lead to growth. Relationships collapse when attraction blinds or aversion dominates. Social media amplifies both. We crave likes and flee criticism. Krishna calls these impulses foes because they quietly enslave us. True freedom comes not from indulging or suppressing, but from mastering the senses. Focus. Watch the play of attraction and aversion. They are not guides, they are tests. Do not become their slave. Master your senses, and your life becomes steady. 335. Better to follow your own dharma. Scene. Krishna says, better is one's own dharma, though imperfect, than the dharma of another well performed. Death in one's own dharma is better. The dharma of another is full of danger. Then, this is one of the Gita's most famous verses. Krishna tells Arjuna that it is better to follow his own duty as a warrior, even if it is hard, than to imitate another's path, even if it looks noble. A kshatriya, fleeing battle to live as a monk, may appear spiritual, but it is betrayal of nature and dharma. Arjuna must see that abandoning his warrior's role would not liberate him, but bind him in hypocrisy. Every person is born with a particular role, nature, and set of responsibilities. To honor that is to live truthfully. To imitate another, however appealing, is to live in danger. Now, this teaching pierces our age of comparison. We are constantly tempted to live someone else's life. A student envies a celebrity. An artist imitates a business tycoon. A homemaker feels inferior to a corporate leader. Social media magnifies this illusion, making everyone's life look better than our own. But Krishna's wisdom is clear. Your dharma is yours alone. You may perform it imperfectly, yet it is safer and truer than copying another's perfection. Fulfillment comes not from imitation, but from authenticity. Focus. Live your own dharma, not another's dream. Imitation is bondage. Authenticity, even with struggle, is freedom. 336. Arjuna's burning question. Scene. Arjuna, troubled, asks Krishna, "By what is a person impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if driven by force?" Then, this is a breakthrough moment. Arjuna admits his confusion. He has heard Krishna's teachings, but he voices the common human cry. Why do people do wrong, even when they know better? Why does a man betray his values? Why does a woman fall into habits she despises? Arjuna asks the question for all humanity. The stage is now set for Krishna to reveal the true inner enemies, desire and anger, the fiery twins that drive people against their own wisdom. This question is not theoretical. Arjuna feels it personally. He knows what is right, yet he hesitates, paralyzed by conflicting pulls. His question is universal and timeless. Now, how many of us have asked the same? Why did I say that in anger when I knew it would hurt? Why did I indulge that desire when I promised I would stop? Why do I keep repeating mistakes I regret? This is the mystery of human weakness. Knowledge alone is not enough. Something within hijacks the will. Krishna will soon reveal that it is kāma, desire, which turns into Krodha, anger, when frustrated. These are the forces that enslave even the wise. Arjuna's question opens the door for one of the most practical teachings in the Gita: focus. The first step to wisdom is to admit confusion. Arjuna shows courage by asking the hard question. We too must face our contradictions honestly. Only then can we discover the real enemies within. 337. Desire, the inner enemy. Scene. Krishna answers firmly, "It is desire, it is anger, born of the quality of passion, all devouring and greatly sinful. Know this as the enemy here on earth." Then, Arjuna has asked, why do people act against their better judgment? Krishna gives the blunt answer, it is desire, kāma, which when thwarted becomes anger, Krodha. These arise from rajas, the guna of passion and restlessness. Desire promises joy, but enslaves. Anger burns like fire and blinds. Together they devour wisdom. Even great warriors, sages, and kings have fallen under their power. Arjuna's true enemies are not only across the battlefield, but inside his own heart. The very hesitation he feels is fed by desire, attachment to family, longing for comfort, fear of loss. His frustration is the seed of anger. Krishna unveils the truth. To win the war outside, Arjuna must also conquer the war within. Now, this truth stings us too. How often do we know what is right, yet fail to do it? Desire whispers, buy more, indulge more, chase more. When it is satisfied, it grows stronger. When it is frustrated, it mutates into anger. How many relationships are poisoned because expectations were not met? How many careers collapse because unrestrained cravings lead to scandal? How many friendships break because anger scorches words that cannot be taken back? We live in a culture that glorifies both. Advertising fuels desire, and media thrives on outrage. Krishna warns, these are not harmless emotions. They are enemies, waiting to consume our wisdom and derail our lives. Focus. Recognize desire and anger as enemies, not friends. They disguise themselves as excitement and energy, but they enslave the mind. Freedom begins when we name them, confront them, and learn to master them. 3.38. The veil over wisdom. Scene. Krishna explains, as fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror by dust, as an embryo is enveloped in the womb, so knowledge is covered by desire. Then, here Krishna paints three vivid metaphors to show how desire obscures wisdom. Fire may be present, but smoke hides its clarity. A mirror may reflect perfectly, but dust blurs the image. An embryo is life itself, but hidden in layers of covering. In the same way, wisdom exists within every human being. The self is luminous, truth is accessible, but desire clouds it. The tragedy is not absence of wisdom, but its concealment. Arjuna, standing on the battlefield, already knows his dharma. His confusion is not lack of knowledge, but smoke of attachment, dust of fear, coverings of desire. Krishna helps him see that he must clear these veils rather than doubt the presence of inner light. Now, this metaphor is timeless. Each of us has moments when clarity flashes, then disappears under smoke. You know that anger will hurt, yet you speak it. You know that indulgence will harm, yet you yield. The problem is not ignorance, but desire's veil. Modern life multiplies these veils. Constant stimulation, endless cravings, relentless comparison cover our wisdom like layers of dust. Our inner clarity is there, but blurred. The task of life is not to manufacture wisdom, but to uncover it by burning away desire. Meditation, service, self-restraint are not punishments. They are methods of cleaning the mirror. Focus. Do not despair that you lack wisdom. It is within you already. The challenge is to remove the smoke, wipe away the dust, peel back the coverings of desire. Clarity is not created. It is uncovered. 339. Desire, the eternal enemy of the wise. Scene. Krishna continues, O son of Kunti, the eternal enemy of the wise is desire, which is never satisfied and burns like fire. Then, the image grows sharper. Desire is not occasional, it is eternal. It stalks even the wise. A fire, if fed, never says enough. It keeps consuming until all is ash. Desire too grows with indulgence. One craving fulfilled breeds another, then another. Arjuna must realize that his hesitation, his arguments, his grief, all arise from unexamined desire. The desire for family's safety, the desire to avoid pain, the desire to preserve his comfort. These desires look noble, but they burn clarity. Krishna calls desire the eternal enemy because it is subtle, persistent, and insatiable. Even sages can fall if they do not guard against it. Now, this warning speaks directly to modern life. Look around at consumer culture. New gadgets, new fashions, new pleasures. Desire never ends. Social media fuels endless craving for attention, likes, recognition. Success at work breeds hunger for more success. Pleasure in relationships breeds fear of loss and demand for more. Like fire, desire grows the more it is fed. And when frustrated, it turns into anger, destroying peace. Even the wise must be vigilant. Knowledge alone does not protect if desire is left unchecked. The fire must be managed, not indulged. Focus. Desire is not to be trusted. It is the eternal enemy because it never rests. Do not feed it endlessly. Learn to master it, or it will master you. Recognize its fire and choose discipline over indulgence. That is the path to wisdom. 340. The strongholds of desire. Scene. Krishna reveals, the senses, the mind, and the intellect are said to be its strongholds. Through these, it deludes the embodied being by veiling knowledge. Then, here, Arjuna learns that desire is not vague. It has specific seats of power. The senses are the first doorway. The eyes crave beauty. The tongue craves taste. The skin craves touch. And the ears crave pleasant sounds. Then the mind processes these cravings, painting fantasies, replaying pleasures, fueling restlessness. Finally, the intellect, which should discriminate, becomes its prisoner. Instead of guiding, it justifies, one more indulgence will not harm me. Everyone does it. I deserve it. Desire conquers all three levels and clouds wisdom completely. Krishna explains that unless these strongholds are purified, the embodied being remains enslaved. Even Arjuna, noble and wise, is not immune. His senses are attached to family, his mind is weaving arguments of compassion, and his intellect is justifying retreat. All three have been hijacked. Now, this strikes home in our daily lives. Think about how desire invades each level. Advertisements capture the senses with images and sounds. The mind starts spinning. If only I had that car, that phone, that lifestyle. The intellect joins in, rationalizing why it is necessary. The same cycle repeats in relationships, careers, and ambitions. Desire does not just whisper once, it builds a fortress. To fight it requires awareness at each level. If you cut it only at the senses, the mind keeps craving. If you calm the mind, the intellect may still argue in its favor. Mastery requires vigilance across all three. Focus. Know where desire hides: senses, mind, intellect. Unless you recognize its strongholds, you cannot defeat it. Awareness at all levels is the first step to mastery. 341. Discipline the senses first. Scene. Krishna instructs, therefore, O best of the Bharatas, restrain the senses first. Destroy this evil which is the destroyer of knowledge and wisdom. Then, Arjuna is told to begin the battle where it is most practical, with the senses. If you let the senses run wild, the mind and intellect follow. If you discipline the senses, the chain weakens. This is why ancient practices emphasized restraint, moderation in eating, control in speech, regulation in habits. The senses are like horses. If they are bridled and directed, the chariot moves steadily. If they are uncontrolled, they drag the rider into disaster. Krishna is urging Arjuna. Discipline is not punishment, it is self-protection. To save wisdom from being destroyed, the senses must be mastered first. Now, this is deeply relevant today. Most of our modern struggles come from overstimulated senses. Screens flood us with images and sounds. Food is engineered to overstimulate taste. Entertainment keeps the eyes and ears restless. No wonder the mind is agitated and the intellect clouded. If we learn moderation, life changes. Simple practices, pausing before reacting, eating mindfully, limiting distractions, become spiritual acts. Discipline may sound hard, but without it, wisdom is destroyed. Restraining the senses is the foundation of freedom. Focus. Begin the battle at the gates. Guard your senses. Restraint is not denial, it is strength. With disciplined senses, wisdom survives and shines. Theme 42. Hierarchy of Power. Scene. Krishna outlines a ladder. The senses are superior to the body. The mind is superior to the senses. The intellect is superior to the mind. But higher than the intellect is the self. Then, Arjuna is shown a hierarchy to understand himself. The body is guided by the senses are guided by the mind is guided by the intellect. Yet beyond all of these is the self, the Atman, eternal and untouched. The self is the true ruler. But when the chain is reversed, when senses dominate the mind, when the mind manipulates the intellect, the self is forgotten and bondage results. Krishna gives Arjuna a map of mastery. To win the inner war, he must climb this ladder, control the senses, direct the mind, sharpen the intellect, and finally rest in the self. This is the true victory. Now, this teaching is profoundly practical. Many live at the level of body and senses, chasing comfort and pleasure. Some rise to the level of mind, guided by feelings and moods. A few live by intellect, discriminating wisely. Rare are those who rise to the self, unshaken by all. This ladder is a call to growth. Every time you resist a craving, you strengthen the mind over the senses. Every time you choose clarity over impulse, you strengthen intellect over mind. Every time you meditate or contemplate the eternal, you rise beyond intellect into the self. This is the true hierarchy of power. Focus. Know the ladder. Do not live at the bottom. Rise step by step until you rest in the self. There lies true mastery and freedom. 343. Conquer desire through the self. Scene. Krishna concludes, thus knowing the self to be higher than the intellect, steady the mind with the self, and slay this enemy, desire, which is difficult to conquer. Then, Arjuna is given the final instruction. Desire is the enemy, subtle and strong. It cannot be conquered by intellect alone, because intellect itself can be corrupted. It cannot be conquered by repression, because that only strengthens it. It must be conquered by anchoring in the self, which is higher than intellect. The self is untouched, eternal, pure awareness. By resting in the self, the mind becomes steady, the senses are calmed, the intellect is clear, and desire loses its grip. Krishna does not hide the truth. Desire is difficult to conquer, but it is not impossible. The warrior's path is not only arrows and armor. It is this inner battle, fought with the weapon of self-knowledge. Now, this final teaching is the crown of the chapter. We often try to fight desire with willpower alone, but willpower fails when temptation is strong. Real strength comes from a higher identity. When you see yourself as the eternal self, desires lose their power. They are passing waves, not defining forces. Modern practices of meditation, self-inquiry, and devotion are ways to anchor in the self. From that anchoring comes freedom. Arjuna is told, conquer the enemy within by rising to your true nature. Focus. Desire is difficult, but not invincible. Anchor in the self, higher than intellect. From that place, you can steady the mind and defeat the enemy that binds all beings. Summary: the battle within, desire and anger. Scene: the battlefield of Kurukshetra is filled with soldiers, elephants, and chariots. Yet in the dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, another battlefield emerges, the battlefield inside every human heart. Krishna has just named the true enemies, desire and anger. They are subtler than arrows and sharper than swords. They live within the senses, mind, and intellect, clouding wisdom and enslaving even the wise. The Gita reminds us, the fiercest battle is not outside, but within. Then, Krishna outlines the path of influence and responsibility, and then reveals how inner enemies sabotage that path. He explains that those who follow his teachings with faith find freedom, 331, but those who reject them out of envy and arrogance fall into ruin, 332. He tells Arjuna that every being acts according to their nature, and repression does not lead to mastery, 333. He warns of attraction and aversion in the senses, subtle forces that quietly control behavior, 3.34. He teaches that one's own dharma, even if difficult, is safer than imitating another's path, 3.35. Arjuna then asks the universal question, why do people act against their own wisdom as if pushed by force, 3.36. Krishna answers, it is desire, which mutates into anger, born of passion, and it devours clarity, 3.37. He compares desire's covering power to smoke over fire, dust over a mirror, or the womb covering an embryo, 3.38. He warns that desire is never satisfied, burning endlessly like fire, 3.39. He explains that desire hides in the senses, the mind, and the intellect, and through them deludes the soul, 3.40. He urges Arjuna to begin the fight by restraining the senses, for without discipline, wisdom is destroyed, 3.41. He shows the hierarchy, senses, mind, intellect, and above them all the self, 3.42. Finally, he commands, steady the mind in the self and conquer desire, the eternal enemy, 3.43. Now, these teachings speak directly to us. Desire and anger are not abstract. They shape our lives daily. Advertisements lure the senses. Social media inflames anger. Workplaces collapse when cravings for power or recognition dominate. Families suffer when tempers override love. Even the wise stumble when they forget vigilance. Krishna's metaphors are still true. Desire covers wisdom like smoke, like dust, like layers of concealment. Knowledge exists within us, but it is obscured. Freedom is not about creating wisdom, but about uncovering it. The culture around us encourages indulgence, endless shopping, endless entertainment, endless outrage. But Krishna insists that such indulgence feeds the fire. Desire never says enough. The result is exhaustion, burnout, and broken trust. The antidote is not repression, but mastery. Begin by disciplining the senses. Limit stimulation, choose moderation, pause before indulging. Then rise through the ladder. Train the mind to resist impulses, sharpen the intellect to discriminate, and finally rest in the self, which is untouched by desire. The self is our highest identity, eternal and pure. Anchoring there, desire and anger lose their grip. Think about your own life. Where has desire led you into choices you regret? Where has anger burned bridges? Where have you known better but still failed to act? These are the very moments Arjuna asked about. Krishna's response was timeless. The enemy is not out there, it is within. And the weapon is not escape, but self-knowledge and discipline. Focus. The focus of this section is clear. The real war is within. Desire and anger are eternal enemies, never satisfied, always waiting. They can be conquered, but only through steady discipline and anchoring in the self. Start with the senses. Guard the mind. Strengthen the intellect. Rest in the self. This is the path to true freedom. Outer victories without inner mastery collapse, but inner mastery transforms every action into peace. Krishna's call to Arjuna is Krishna's call to us. Fight your inner enemies with vigilance, and you will find victory not only in the world, but in yourself.